When we think of the ancient world, we picture kings, warriors, and philosophers. We read of victories, admire great temples, and marvel at the wisdom of long-dead empires. But what we rarely ask is, who cleaned the altars after the sacrifices? Who buried the bodies after the plague? Who kept the filth of civilization from flooding its streets? Civilization isn't built on gold or glory. It's built on the backs of those who did the jobs no one wanted. The ones who worked in blood, waste, and shadow. The ones who were invisible, but indispensable. In the ancient world, there were professions so vile, so feared, that even speaking of them was taboo. Some were considered cursed, others were part of sacred rituals, and many were born out of sheer necessity, dirty hands doing what had to be done. In this episode, we uncover the most disgusting, dangerous, and forgotten jobs of the ancient world. And by the end, you might ask yourself, what does it truly cost to build a civilization? The corpse washers of Mesopotamia, in the shadowed alleys of ancient Sumer, long before modern hygiene or mortuary science, there were people tasked with a job no one else dared touch, the washing of the dead. These were not respected priests or noble healers. They were the untouchables of their time. Called upon after death had already claimed its prize, they were responsible for preparing the body for burial or ritual. They would clean the skin, comb the hair, plug the orifices, and anoint the corpse with oils or resins, all while the air reeked of decay, disease, and lingering spirits. The irony? In a deeply spiritual society that honored the journey of the soul, these individuals made that journey possible. Yet they were shunned for it. Many believed that handling a corpse invited bad luck, spiritual contamination, or even demonic possession. Some cities required corpse washers to live outside the city walls, forbidden to eat or drink with others. They worked with water, salt, cloth, and herbs, simple tools for a profound task. And if the death had been from disease or violence, their risk was greater. No one shielded them from infection. No one thanked them for their silence. Yet without them, the rituals would be broken, the spirits would be restless, the city would be unclean. They were invisible in life and essential in death, and they remind us, sometimes the most sacred roles come wrapped in shame. Snake venom milkers of the ancient world. In the temples of ancient Egypt and the forests of the Indus Valley, a rare breed of specialist worked in shadows and silence, men and women whose livelihood depended on the fangs of the deadliest creatures on Earth. They were venom collectors. Tasked with extracting poison from snakes, these individuals lived dangerously close to death. The venom wasn't just a threat, it was the goal. Used for religious rituals, early medical treatments, and even assassination, snake venom was a prized and deadly substance. The method was both brutal and delicate. Corner the snake, hold it just below the head, and press its fangs onto a cloth-covered container to milk the venom. One slip, and the collector could be dead in minutes. Anti-venoms didn't exist. Only herbs, prayers, and hope. Some collectors were slaves, forced to risk their lives for temple medicine. Others were revered as shamans or alchemists, believed to have mastered life and death through their bond with serpents. In many cultures, handling snakes was seen as a bridge between the mortal and divine, both feared and respected. But the cost was steep. Countless deaths, permanent nerve damage, and slow, agonizing injuries. Their hands often trembled from years of venom exposure, their faces marked by scars no one asked about. To tame death, they danced with it, and most never lived long enough to be remembered. Latrine slaves of ancient Rome. While Roman engineering is often praised for its aqueducts, roads, and public baths, few speak of the men who kept the empire's underbelly from overflowing, the latrine slaves. Beneath marble floors and mosaic tiles lay vast networks of sewage tunnels, and inside those tunnels were men. Enslaved laborers tasked with crawling through dark, narrow, suffocating spaces to clear blockages, shovel human waste, and ensure the smooth flow of what no one else wanted to see. Armed with only a bucket, a shovel, and a rag to cover their mouths, these workers were expected to keep the filth of millions moving. The air was toxic. Methane gas could ignite. Rats, roaches, parasites, all common company. Some slaves lost their eyesight. Others never resurfaced. They weren't just janitors, they were engineers of decay. Despite the dangers, their work was essential. A backed-up sewer meant plague. Overflowing latrines meant disease in the streets. Rome's famed cleanliness, its sophisticated public health system, rested entirely on the backs of men no Roman citizen would dare speak to in public. They lived among the waste, smelled of it, and died because of it. And yet, without them, the empire might have collapsed from within. Civilization is only clean because someone else is forced to live in the dirt. Temple butchers, sacred hands, bloody work. In the grand courtyards of Mesopotamian ziggurats, beneath the columns of Greek temples, and on the steps of Egyptian sanctuaries, sacrifices echoed through ancient stone, but behind every sacred offering was a pair of human hands, those of the temple butcher. Their job was divine and disturbing. They slaughtered animals, and in some cultures, people, as part of religious rites meant to appease the gods, heal the sick, or cleanse the land. With practiced precision, they cut throats, drained blood, and removed organs, all according to sacred protocols. A single mistake wasn't just a ritual error, it was spiritual blasphemy. The butcher knew anatomy better than many physicians. He understood how to strike quickly, how to sever the right artery, how to burn fat in a way the gods would smell. But the work left stains on the skin and on the soul. Despite their importance, these individuals often lived in isolation. The blood on their hands, though ritualistic, was feared. Children were warned not to look them in the eye. Some cultures believed they absorbed the sins of the sacrificed, a vessel for divine violence. They stood between gods and mortals, blade in hand, but no amount of incense could cover the scent they carried. And yet, their work fed the fires of temples, the hearts of believers, and the myths we still whisper today. Embalmers and mummifiers of ancient Egypt. Among the sands of ancient Egypt, where death was not an end but a passage, a special class of workers performed the sacred and unsettling task of preserving the dead, the embalmers. They worked in shadowed tents known as the Place of Purification, armed with bronze hooks, natron salt, palm wine, and obsidian blades. Their mission? To turn a decomposing body into an eternal vessel, clean, preserved, and ready for the afterlife. They began by removing the brain through the nose. Then came the organs, carefully extracted, sometimes placed in jars bearing the faces of gods. The body would be packed with herbs and salts, left to dry for weeks, then wrapped in linen, charm by charm, prayer by prayer. It was meticulous, spiritual, bloody. But for all its sanctity, the job came with a price. Embalmers were often seen as ritually impure. Many Egyptians believed that touching the dead invited spiritual danger, and so these workers, though essential, were kept at a distance, praised in myth, avoided in life. They preserved kings and pharaohs, they turned flesh into eternity, and yet no tomb was ever built for them. In the story of civilization, they wrote with silence and salt, the keepers of the boundary between this world and the next. History remembers the emperors, the generals, the builders of temples, but it rarely remembers the ones who made those empires livable, who cleaned the filth, faced the dead, and carved meaning from suffering. They didn't wear crowns, they didn't write philosophy, they worked in silence, in shadow, in sacrifice. And yet without them, civilization would have collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. We speak of progress as something clean and glorious, but often it was soaked in blood, waste, and forgotten sweat. These ancient jobs may disgust us today, but they were the bones beneath the beauty, the rot beneath the gold. This is Primordia, where we uncover the untold, the unseen, and the unforgettable. If these stories made you think differently about history, subscribe, because the past has more to teach us, if we're willing to dig. Subscribe now for more forgotten truths, ancient grit, and timeless wisdom.